rather just pay that all-day parking pass than trying to get a ticket, because higher ticket fines, an increase in ticket fines are due because people are finding it much easier to get a ticket rather than buy for a ticket, a parking pass. The Wareham Week reports that on Tuesday, the Board of Selectmen voted unanimously to increase the fines for all parking infractions. The decision to increase parking fees came from a recent uptick in parking tickets across the town and beaches. Wareham Harbour Master Gary Buckminster said that the staff wrote about 550 citations in 5 days, suggesting that it was cheaper to park illegally in Wareham than to pay for a legal pass. Most fines have been increased from $30 to $50, while fines for particular grievous infractions such as obstructing a sidewalk, blocking a driveway, or leaving less than a 10-foot roadway will now ring in at $100 and higher. It will take the town several weeks to get these applications in order, as the town needs to get new ticket books printed out. So you have now until, I do not know, maybe mid-August to enjoy low parking ticket fees. And to another news, school reopening discussions continue as the fall school year nears. Wareham Week reports that on Thursday, the school committee members met for another workshop to discuss safe and effective school reopening plan. Wareham Superintendent Dr. Kimberly Sheverhood proposed that maybe the school should start entirely remotely, then gradually switch to the hybrid model that the board is favoring. Dr. Sheverhood said that starting on September 16th, they will be sending in few groups of students at a time to get acclimated to the new learning protocol, while most students will be at home learning. And by October 5th, Sheverhood thinks that it will be the beginning of a hybrid approach. The Wareham School Committee will have to vote on which of the three reopening approaches they will adopt by August 6th. They are looking at whether to open with a hybrid model, whether to open 100% in person-to-person opening, or whether to continue on with virtual learning. And to another news, Wareham bids for town-wide curbside refuse and recycling pickup as the Tri-Town District's contract with Covanta CMAS comes to an end. Now, the residents of Wareham, Carver, and Marion, who are part of the Carver-Marion-Wareham Waste District, can dispose waste at Benson Brook Transfer Station and Route 28 Transfer Station in Marion for a minimal sticker fee, as regulated by individual towns. But the district's contract with Covanta CMAS that has allowed for this to happen is going to expire this year on December 31st. Wareham is looking for another contractor responsible of picking up refuse at all households once a week, single stream recycling every other week. Each home would receive a 65-gallon container for trash and a 96-gallon container for recycling. This plan does not include mobile home parks and multifamily housing with more than 3 units. The town is to submit a proposal by August 11th to the Director of Municipal Maintenance, town administrators for Carver and Wareham, in addition to the chief procurement officers of each town. Ultimately, the proposal will have to pass town meeting in Carver and in Wareham. And our in-person high school graduation ceremony cancellation prompts a protest. The Bourne Enterprise reports that on its district website on Wednesday, the Bourne Public Schools announced that the planned in-person graduation ceremony scheduled for tomorrow, Saturday, August 1st, has been canceled. In lieu of the event, the district will hold a virtual ceremony on the same day. The district says canceling the event will play a role in keeping the community safe from COVID-19, though no recent outbreak of COVID-19 has been reported in Bourne. Meanwhile, Wareham School District Class of 2020 graduation, in-person graduation ceremony is still scheduled for Friday, August 7th. And that concludes this morning news headlines. Coming next is our weather forecast.
Social distancing and staying home are the best ways to limit the spread of COVID-19. But if you must go out, make sure you cover your face. You can use anything that covers your nose and mouth, including dust masks, scarves, and bandanas. But leave the surgical masks and N95s for healthcare workers. Remember, masks slow the spread when you must go out. But staying home and social distancing are the best ways to protect yourself and others. For more information, visit mass.gov/COVID-19.
It was raining outside my door. Was it raining outside your house as well? I hope so. It's going to be a mixture of clouds and sun throughout the weekend and carrying on towards next week with temperatures in the upper 80s, possibly hinting the 90s. It will rain throughout the week as well. After all the humidity throughout the week comes the rain showers. So enjoy your day as much as you can. That concludes this weekend and the next week's weather focus. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue with the rest of our program.
We want to talk to you about medical emergencies.
The kind that would result in a visit to the ED before the coronavirus hit.
The kind that would start with chest pain and sweating.
Or with difficulty speaking and drooping of the face.
Or an accident like a fall or the slip of a kitchen knife.
These are still the kind of emergencies that require a trip to your local emergency department.
Despite this pandemic.
We assure you hospitals are doing everything possible to keep emergency departments clean and safe.
And we are here to provide care to you and your family, but you must not delay.
Because when it comes to your health, time can be the difference
between life and death.
If you experience a medical emergency, call 911 or go to your local emergency department.
We brought you Gary Crocker, Maine humorist, who tells the tales from West Gardner, a program by Berwick Community TV in Maine. We brought to you him on Monday, and he was such a big hit. So we're bringing him to you again this morning. Enjoy.
Welcome to day 11 of Tales from West Gardner, Maine. It's still snowing out there. This is a weird March, April time frame. Anyway, we're all out here being good to each other, reaching out to our neighbors, having a good time, but staying separated and staying kind. That's the key here. Anyway, I got to tell you a story. Mother and I got in our car, got in the truck, and we decided we were going to go visit some foreign land. We were going to go to Calais, Maine. All excited, Mother says, I want to go on to Calais. I haven't been to the coast for a while, so we got on that Route 9. Used to be called the airline. That was an exciting ride back in the day. It was all humpy and curvy. Then DOT got involved, the Department of Transportation. They smoothed it out, straightened her out. Now it's not a thrill ride. It used to be called the airline because you got airborne 4 or 5 times between Brewer, Maine, and Calais. Now it's just a straight shot. Well, we whistled down there in no time at all. We come whistling into Calais, and as we did, we saw a big sign. All gold lame, wicked, smart-looking sign, big shocker of a sign that said, Welcome to Calais. I said, look at that, Mother. We're in Calais already. She goes, don't be such a numbie. It ain't Calais. It's Calais, you moron. I said, well, geez, Mother, I don't think so. It might be Calais on the other side of the pond, but over here, it's Calais. Oh, no, she said. We argued all the way into town. We finally get into the center of town. And I pulled over to the side of the road because I saw a local fella strolling along the sidewalk. I pulled right over next to him, put my window down on the truck, waved him over to the truck, and I said, excuse me, my wife and I are having an argument about where we are. Could you come over here and just say it real slow so she'll understand it? Sure, he says. So he come over and he leaned in the window of the truck, looked right at Mother, and he goes, Dunkin' Donuts. Well, you got to ask the right questions. We've gone over this before. Take care of each other out there. Yeah. Welcome to day 12 of Tales from West Gardner, Maine. It's still snowing. And you might notice them in the woods. Mother said 80 feet at the fire pit, 1.5. She said, you got to go deeper in the woods. Here I am. I don't know what I'm going to do to camp out for the evening. I hope it don't snow all night. Anyway, we're taking care of each other. I hope you are. I'm sure you are. You're in Maine, taking care of other Mainers. Anyway, I got to tell you a quick story about Mother and I. We took a trip to Ireland. Went to Dublin. Had a good time. If you've never been to Ireland, when this thing all gets over, you got to do it. Ireland's one heck of a nice place. The Emerald Isle. We had a great time. Mother went shopping, and I spent my time in the pubs. Yeah, had a great time. I was in there one day. Something weird happened. A fella from Texas come in, and big strapping fella, stood right in the middle of the pub, didn't make a sound, put his hands on his hips, stared everybody down till nobody was talking. Then he said, I know you fellas there in Ireland think you're heavy drinkers. I've read about it. I'll tell you right now, I'm from Texas. I can outdrink anybody in the place. I'll make a bet. I got 500 American dollars. I'll put it right on the bar. If there's any man here that can drink 10 pints of Guinness without stopping, that's their money. If they can't do it, or they spill any, they got to pay me $500. Everybody kind of talked about it. Geez, 10 pints of Guinness, get $500. That's a pretty good deal. Well, but geez, that's a lot of beer all at once. Guess not. So they all kind of sat back, went doing what they're doing. All of a sudden, this one little guy jumps off a stool, runs out of the bar. Half an hour later, he comes right back in, walks over to the Texan who was sitting there having a drink, tapped him on the knee, couldn't reach any higher. He goes, is the bet still on? You know the idea of drinking 10 pints of Guinness all at once? The Texan looked him up and down and said, are you kidding? You're a little runt. You think you can drink 10 pints of Guinness without stopping? Little fellow says, I know I can, all excited. Well, the Texan put the 10 pints of Guinness on the bar, put $500 in. He said, you drink all 10 pints without spilling a drop. That money's yours. The little fellow marched right along, fired him down, one right after another. All 10 gone. Grabs the money, starts out of the pub. Texan caught up with him at the door, and he said, hey, that was impressive. I couldn't even do that. And it's your money. But I got to ask you one question. Where did you go when you left the pub for half an hour? Little fella kind of shifted his feet. He said, well, I'll be honest with you. I wasn't sure I could do it. I went next door and practiced. That's twisting the knife there. Take care of each other. Yeah? Welcome to day 13 of Tales from West Gardner, Maine. I'm here sitting down to a fresh pancake Mother just made. Yeah? Got my coffee cup from the USS Boston. I got some maple syrup to go on that, on that pancake, made by Mert Durnley, my classmate from Monmouth Academy, 1966. Mert, pretty smart, went to the University of Maine, studied mathematics. But he had his moments. In the 5th grade, he was sitting in the front row. Teacher was going on and on about polynomial this and that, and Mert wasn't getting it. He had that glazed look in his eye. If you ever meet Mert, you'll recognize it. Anyway, teacher said, Mert, you ain't getting the math, are you? And he said, no, I'm not. No? No? He says, well, what can I do to help you understand it? Well, what if I made it applied? Put it into context of something you do every day. Would that help? He said, yeah, it would, yeah. Well, what do you do every day? Well, right now we're cutting and selling firewood at the house. Oh, good, I got a firewood example. Let's say firewood was $10 a cord, you buy $40 worth of firewood. How much firewood you got? Mert thought for a minute. He said, you got 3.5 cord. Teacher said, no, that's not right. He said, I know it's not right, but they all do it. Yeah, there you have it. Hey, be kind to each other. Support each other. We all need it. Yeah? Welcome to day 14 of Tales from West Gardner, Maine. My friend John Marsh just left. We didn't have any contact. He left a bag of cooked fresh Maine crab just caught off the coast of Maine. We're having a decent time here, but it got me to thinking. You know, I've always thought, and I don't want to disparage anybody else out there. You're all wonderful people, but I gotta tell you, being a Mainer, I've always thought that Maine women make the best wives. And I'll tell you why. It's because no matter how bad things get, they've seen worse. And on top of that, they're wicked focused. I mean, when a Maine woman gets an idea in her head, get used to it. It ain't going anywhere. I'm just cracking these shells here. That Maine idea is sticking in her head, and she's going to make it happen. Now, I'll give you a good example. When my Uncle Willie was passing away, he was, this was a few years ago, he was quite ill. They had moved his bed into the room right next to the kitchen so his wife Emma could prepare his meals and take them easily right back and forth there without going out and downstairs. Well, anyway, Willie was laying there drawing maybe what could have been his last breath. And as he drew a breath, he smelled something emanating from the kitchen. He goes, Emma, what's that you're cooking? She goes, it's an apple pie, Willie. Oh, he said, you know I love apple pie. Can I get just a little piece? And she says, no, it's for the wake. When a Maine woman gets an idea to hit, it's there forever.
Hi, my name is Mike Burns, and I'm pleased to have Rich Kennedy with me today to talk about the Angel Fund. Welcome, Rich.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it.
We're glad to have you. The Angel Fund is a local organization I know, headquartered in Wakefield, Massachusetts, dedicated to raising funds for research to solve the problem of ALS. Could you tell us a little bit about the history of ALS? ALS is, of course, known as Lou Gehrig's disease as well. But,
that's correct. My history sadly begins with losing my dad back in 1989. And the understanding, at least with the neurologist from my dad, was that there was no real genetic component with ALS and that we had nothing to worry about. Well, from a family of 9, don't you know that would have been the youngest in the family, my brother Jimmy, who roughly 4 years after my dad had passed away started to notice some serious weakness and things like that. Poor Jimmy had graduated, gone to law school, graduated from law school, passed the bar, gotten married, and bought a house in suburban D.C. Diagnosed when he was 28 and sadly passed away when he was 31. Well, that's enough for me to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, you know, we've got to do something about this. It's a terribly helpless feeling to sit and watch not just a brother, but your younger brother succumb to such a horrible disease. Thankfully, a friend of Jimmy's and a friend of mine came to me at one of the services and said, you know, we need to do something. We thought a memorial road race would be great in his name. Well, the memorial road race turned into something enormous. It caused me to introduce myself to Dr. Robert Brown, at the time and still now the world's leading researcher in ALS. Now, Mike, I would have gone anywhere if I thought someone was the best bet to cure that disease, particularly knowing that it's now within my family and that I had 4 kids to protect. So I find Dr. Brown, and I only have to travel to Mass General. Yet one more reason to be thankful that I grew up around Boston. I began something which we call discretionary funding, where I said to Dr. Brown, we're going to raise roughly $20,000. I'm going to hand you the check, and you do whatever you want with that. This is how groundbreaking research gets done. You don't have to prove something is going to work, where you get national funding for this. This is sort of seed money, which develops novel type approaches to things. So I'm quoted in several papers before this first Memorial Road Race for my brother Jimmy talking about if we raise $20,000, that's exactly what Dr. Brown will get. I'm not going to take any of this off the top, and we're going to hustle for all the services we can get for free. Well, that resonated with someone who saw that and brought it to his mother. This is Ginny Del Vecchio, who had started the Massachusetts chapter of a national organization and walked away when she saw how bureaucratic it had become. This kid who finds the articles says, "You've got to meet this guy, he sounds just like you." Now, sadly, after the first Jimmy Kennedy Memorial Race, which didn't raise 20,000, it raised 25,000, Ginny Del Vecchio passed away. But it was after presenting the check to Dr. Brown, going to that funeral where I was introduced to her husband, her cousins, aunts, uncles, and that family, and those are the people who joined along with me. And we sort of created what was Ginny's dream, was to create an organization which would be devoted directly toward ALS research, particularly funding someone as brilliant as Dr. Brown. That's the origin of the Angel Fund. It's an organization which has done nothing but grow, and I love to refer to the extended Angel Fund family, that we are as transparent as an organization could be. To this day, I still haven't taken a dime. I have a board of directors who won't take a dime. It's the surest way to ensure that ALS research on the cutting edge is being done. $15 million is what we've raised so far, and we plan to keep on going.
I think one of the really important things, as far as I'm concerned about it, is that everybody is a volunteer. As you said, nobody, there's no salaries, very, very nominal overhead.
Right.
Which certainly makes it stand out in my mind to any number of other charities that are around. It's a terrific organization. It really
we
is.
pride ourselves particularly in that, but also to be as transparent as possible. Dr. Brown is at UMass Medical Center right now, and they're just absolutely wonderful. We love to bring our donors, we love to bring the members of this Angel Fund family in to see the labs, to see the work that's going, and to see the unbelievably dedicated people who are in there working. I said from the very beginning, I'm not smart enough to figure this out, but I'm going to outwork it, and I'll leave it to Dr. Brown and to some of these other brilliant individuals there. They can outthink it, and together that's a terrific combination.
Sure. You know, as I say, the thing that I like about the organization, it's very dynamic in that everybody's got an idea for a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And some of them a lot more successful than others, but every dollar that's raised goes to research. And you can't say that in too many other charities. It's remarkable.
Yeah, Mike, ALS has been classically underfunded. 5,000 new cases diagnosed in this country each year may seem like a lot, but compared to breast cancer and compared to some of these other diseases that have much higher numbers, drug companies typically weren't very interested in raising money for ALS because you don't make money with that few new patients coming along. So we've had to hustle. We embrace organizations like the Wilmington Rotary that are going to events. We take them all, we love them all. It's funding something which has become red hot recently with some of the new developments with things like gene silencing and drug therapy and stem cell therapy. All of a sudden now ALS has become a much more hot topic. Brilliant people are forever coming now, and now that they're studying ALS, it's nothing but good things in the future. So many of these organizations that you talk about putting together these fundraisers, they all deserve credit to getting us from point A to point B, that here we are right now in a different world where more people are interested, companies are interested, et cetera. It's going to lead to some tremendous things.
You know, one of the things I think that's such a positive is the amount of awareness that's been driven as far as ALS is concerned. Certainly P. Frates was very instrumental in that, and the Ice Bucket Challenge and any other things. My uncle passed away from ALS 35 years ago, and it was virtually unknown. It was unheard of. Nobody knew about it. You never heard of anybody else that suffered. It was Lou Gehrig's disease, named after the Yankee first baseman. And I suppose it still is, but ALS just has a resonance now. People talk about it. I have a hat from the Angel Fund that says ALS, and you'd be surprised how many people in the course of a week or so would come up and say, oh yeah, ALS, you know, my uncle had that, or my brother's cousin had this, and so forth and so on. So it's becoming so much more widely known.
Right. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who didn't know someone who had it. It's become, because of the Ice Bucket Challenge, that lightning in a bottle that they captured, it's become much more widely known.
Certainly.
But, you know, as a therapist, I would put up a sign for an Angel Fund event and they say, oh, my neighbor passed away from that.
Sure.
What's so encouraging now is that what my dad was given with the diagnosis of ALS was a death sentence. What my brother Jimmy was given was in fact a death sentence. Too many of the patients that I've treated as a therapist were given that same death sentence. That's what ALS was. One pet peeve was that people would say to me, Lou Gehrig passed away in 1939, and people are still dying at the same rate that they were then. And until 3 years ago, I would say, well, you don't understand how much more we know about the disease now. Well, we're at a turning point right now where we're actually getting drugs developed. We're actually getting specific therapies for ALS. So we can say now that mark 2019 and 2020 as that turning point where all of a sudden now we're going from academia to practical application from that. Lots of things have worked in the lab, but when we get them to people, those kind of fizzle out. So this is the best by far we've ever been looking at positive therapies for ALS, something which at one time was a death sentence.
Sure. Would you like to talk about your experiences with this therapy?
Oh, absolutely. I was diagnosed, unfortunately, a little over 3 years ago. And I am who I am. I've never been anything but incredibly optimistic. I call that realistic optimism because I've seen what's gone on with this. Something called gene silencing was introduced to me roughly 7 or 8 years ago. And to hear the description of manipulating someone's DNA seemed totally like science fiction to me. Well, by the time I was diagnosed, I knew how close we were to the actual practical application of that and actually starting a human trial in that. I'm fortunate in that I am that first human trial. Had to break down a lot of barriers and be very patient and wait, but back in August, I began what's called a pilot study. So far, the good news is that I'm tolerating it extremely well. It appears to be hitting the right targets. We won't know for a long time whether or not this will actually have a positive effect in slowing or hopefully arresting the disease, but it's that first step. It's no longer theoretical, it's actually taking place now. I am patient 1, and hopefully this is going to open the door for 5, 10, 15, 20, that many more people, ALS patients, not having that same death sentence. Now there is just open that door a crack, and we want desperately to kick it down.
Certainly, and again, as funding for research, that's the key.
It takes money, and these studies are prohibitively expensive. It's just simply the way that it has to be. So we'll continue to hustle. I talk about raising $15 million. In the grand scheme of things, $15 million, it goes a long way, but it doesn't get us all the way there. It's great now that things like the Ice Bucket Challenge, as you mentioned, attracts that many more people to it. We've got far more med students who are now interested in studying neurodegenerative diseases like ALS because it's so promising. It's not that death sentence that it once was. As I say, we all just want that glimmer of hope. That's what I've been hanging on to, and to actually see it now, it's quite surreal to be going through all of this. I like to say this is all too good a story not to have a happy ending.
Sure, absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's, if anybody would like to be involved with the organization or learn more, how do they go about that, Rich?
Well, the organization is called the Angel Fund. We have an online presence at theangelfund.org. That gives you a calendar of our different events, tells you a little bit about our history, and most importantly, gives you that information about what's going on, why you should be optimistic, why you should feel like me that things are very much not moving in the right direction, but now we're flying in the right direction.
With the end in sight, but we're not there yet.
Not quite.
Yeah.
And If it works for me, the next step is to get it into those who are not genetically connected, what we call sporadic ALS, which is in fact about 90% of all ALS patients.
Right.
I like to think that I'm the first domino to fall, but there's a lot more which need to fall. And that's going to take an awful lot more money.
Sure, sure. So anybody that wants to be involved or has an idea or a suggestion or whatever, it's theangelfund.org. And a number of social services, social media as well. I know a number of the people that are involved are posting on social media.
That's right.
It's just a terrific organization. I've worked with them for a few years now, and the satisfaction is tremendous. And particularly when you meet somebody like Rich Kennedy, who is so bloody optimistic about the thing. He's a great person to know. And the fact that the monies that have been raised in research are helping him is just so satisfying. So if you'd like to become involved again, it's theangelfund.org. And we hope you'll take a look at it and give it a consideration. Rich, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Good luck. Good health. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the time.
Bob White says you cannot be that corrupted. Good morning and welcome back. So let's look at today in history. Today in 1975, James Hoffa, one of the most influential American labor leaders of the 20th century, is officially reported missing after he failed to return home the previous night. Many believed that his disappearance was due to a mafia hit. Conclusive evidence was never found, and Hoffa's fate remains a mystery. For today in history, in 1964, Ranger 7, an unmanned U.S. lunar probe, takes the first close-up images of the moon. About 4,308 photos were taken. The images were said to be 1,000 times as clear as anything ever seen through Earth-bound telescopes. And today in history, in 1711, a hurricane sinks Spanish treasure ships. East coast of Florida, the hurricane strikes, sinking 10 Spanish treasure ships and killing nearly 1,000 people. All the gold and silver on board at the time would not be recovered until 250 years later. Spanish officials in Havana sent ships to salvage the treasure. About 80% of that treasure was recovered by April of 1716, but the rest remained lost until 1960s. And for today's birthday, shout out goes to Wesley Snipes, an American actor, director, film producer, and martial artist, and also an author. He is well known for films such as White Men Can't Jump, Passenger 57, New Jack City, and many more. He was born today in Orlando, Florida. He was born today in Orlando, Florida in 1962, and he turns 57 years young today. And happy birthday to everybody else celebrating their big day. That is all for Today in History segment. To learn more cool historical facts, please go online under history.com. Stay with us. The coffee segment is next.
You've always protected me.
Whoa. And I still need you. Prescription pain pills, heroin, kids are getting addicted.
can you still protect me?
Kids who talk with their parents about opioids are less likely to misuse them. Find out what you can say.
Okay, for today's coffee segment, we're going to learn about tools to help empower us. We'll feature an episode from Health View, a program dedicated to empowering you with information that will help you be informed, make positive choices, and be a better advocate for yourself and your overall health. Enjoy.
Dedicated to empowering you with information,
to make positive choices,
and be advocates for your overall well-being.
Welcome to the Health View. Welcome to the Health View. I'm Yvonne Dunitz, and our topic today is about self-empowering tools to live your best life. My guest is Allison Morgan, founder and CEO of Sensational Kids, an educational company bringing evidence-based yoga and mindfulness practices to school communities worldwide, teaching the inner resources of focused attention, self-awareness, and resilience. Allison is passionate about training educators, mental health professionals, and allied health professionals effective techniques to share these practices with youth. She began integrating yoga and mindfulness into her therapy sessions with children in 2007, discovering the multitude of physical, emotional, cognitive, and behavioral benefits these practices offered her occupational therapy clients, and recognizing the need for more mental health programs in schools. Allison began writing curriculum and developing teacher training programs to help others share these practices. She is the author of 3 separate curriculums for pre-K through high school-age students: Young Explorers, Yoga and Mindfulness in Early Childhood Education; Educate to Be, Tools for Engaged Learning and Living; and Everyday Mindfulness, Techniques for Teens to Develop Compassion, Calm, Focus, and Resilience. She is also the author of Wisdom Within, a children's exploration of inner awareness, and was a contributor to Best Practices for School Yoga. She has partnered with universities to conduct research investigating the effectiveness of yoga and mindfulness with special needs populations, and contributes to several advisory boards and organizations involved in creating better lives for children. Along with helping schools develop resilient and compassionate internal and external environments for students and educators to thrive, Allison contributed the mindfulness component of the Jessie Lewis Choose Love program, a free social and emotional learning curriculum for pre-K through 12th grade, partnering with Newark Yoga Movement. She helped to develop Inner Calm, a school-wide yoga and mindfulness program to help students center, move, and relax at the start of their day. Please help me welcome Allison Morgan. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you.
I'd like you to share with us the most important information related to what people can do to help them have the tools that they need.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share it, because it's unbelievable just to know that there are things that we could do for ourselves that can impact ourselves so greatly. And it's really about working with ourselves from the inside out. You know, we live in this society where everyone's running around, everyone's, stressed and doing so much, and there's so much information out there. We're sort of like on information overload. And we think that the answers for ourselves are outside of ourselves. And through all of the research and the work and the personal study I've done, I've really discovered that it's really about what we do for ourselves, within ourselves. So, when we talk about what are really the most powerful tools that we could use for ourselves to create more joy, more ease, more contentment, and our happiness in our lives. There's really like three major things that I usually start out teaching. And the first being that, we all know we're stressed, we're overloaded, we're overwhelmed. And really, a lot of that is a function of the way we've programmed our nervous system. So we have this wonderful nervous system that keeps us alive. It does things for us that we don't even have to think about. So, for example, if we're in danger, it gets us out of danger. And when we're relaxed, it helps us maintain a relaxed state. So we have this autonomic nervous system, which is divided into two branches. One is called the sympathetic nervous system, and the other one, the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is really what kicks us in gear when we're in danger. So you could think of our nervous system as like it always wants to keep us safe. And safety's first, right? So we don't want to think about when we're being chased or when we're really scared. We don't want to think about what we do to keep ourselves safe. Our body just kicks in gear and makes us run to safety or hide or fight back. And that's governed by our sympathetic nervous system, which is really like our stress state. So what happens when our sympathetic nervous system is kicked into gear, our body floods with these hormones that keep us going. It's sort of like putting the pedal of the gas pedal down in the car. Get you going, get your heart, rate racing, get your breath really quick. It sort of gives you the superhuman strength momentarily to get you out of danger. And again, it's automatic. You don't need to think about it. Unfortunately, what happens is that because we lived in very stressed states often, this branch of our nervous system is highly active. It's kind of going all the time. And this other branch called the parasympathetic nervous system, it's not going. We're not activating it enough. So the parasympathetic nervous system is all about rest, digest, heal, and be. Where sympathetic is about go, 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 get through it, rush through it, power through it, or hide, run and hide. So going back to like what's a self-empowering tool, number one is to recognize what state you're in and really balance that nervous system. And it's something that we can do really just by even using our breath. The way that we use our breath to sort of realign and rebalance that nervous system. So actually, if I could show you something that we all could do just to take a moment. And what I love about what I'm going to show you is you don't have to cognitively know, like, I'm stressed out, I can't do this anymore, I'm overwhelmed. This is something that you can really just take a minute or two out of your day, maybe even a few times a day, to do this for yourself. And it'll just continually rebalance your nervous system so that you won't be so susceptible to getting stressed at, the snap of a finger or something like that. So how does that sound?
It sounds wonderful.
All right, great. I'm going to stay seated for this.
Perfect.
And there's two things that I'm going to show. One is movement with some breath. And the other is just to stop, pause, and a certain way to posture ourselves during our breath. So for our listeners, if you could just sit back a little bit in your chair and keep your feet on the floor. It just keeps you, your body feeling secure. And we're going to take a big breath in. And when we do, you're just going to reach your arms all the way out to the side and bring in your heart forward and your head up. This is a breath in. So you could take a big breath in. And then as you exhale, you're going to round your back, and you could even give yourself a hug. Your hands come across your body, shoulder to shoulder. Your chin tucks in, and your spine is rounded towards the back of your chair. That's your breath out. So your breath in, you reach your arms out to the side. And look up, breathing in. Exhale, round your back, cross your arms like you're giving yourself a hug. Big breath out, get all the air out. Tuck your chin, round your spine. Another big breath in. And big breath out. So you can do that just a few times, getting that rhythm of your breath in and out. And then just take a moment, stop, put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. And you can either close your eyes or just softly gaze down. And you're just going to breathe. Notice your breath. Maybe you notice your heart beating. And feel your body just taking in air. And if it's available to you, see if you can get breath into your belly. So not only will your hand at your heart move, but your hand on your belly will move as well. So for many of us that when we get stressed or we get frightened, most of our air just stays around the upper lung area. So what we're looking to do is see if we can fill our lungs to full capacity, getting breath into our lower lungs as well. So that would make the belly expand. And then just take a big breath in and a big breath out and release your hands. And take a moment to just notice how you feel. So another thing really is just always taking time to appreciate, notice, and acknowledge how you feel. We don't do that enough. We're always looking at how does everything look around us? Am I getting everything in order? But to continually tune in to how we're feeling is very, very important.
And when we do that, Allison, are we what you call hacking into our nervous system?
That's exactly it, Yvonne. So we have this incredible nerve. It's our 10th cranial nerve. It sounds really big and scientific. But it goes from the base of our brain all the way down through our diaphragm, and it just innervates everything within our abdomen, all of our organs. And it sends messages from our body to our brain, telling our brain, what's the state of affairs here? You know, is it really tight and anxious here, or is it calm and relaxed? And when we train ourselves really to breathe this way, or remember to breathe into our belly, take big full breaths in, what happens is that we activate that vagus nerve. And it sends a message from our body up to our brain, telling our brain, oh, all is well. It's okay. Because very often we're doing the flip. You know, our brain is saying like, oh my God, I can't get that done. Oh my God, what am I supposed to do now? Oh, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. So our brain is sending messages to our body, and it's making our body freak out. So here we're hacking into it, and we're helping our body send message to our brain. We're okay.
So Allison,
you're okay.
Speaking about the brain, because this is an important thing that we've just done for our nervous system, what can we do to master the mind?
Oh, yeah. You know, so many of us are just consumed by the external environment, and the external environment dictates so much about, you know, what we're thinking and what we're doing. And, you know, our mind is a wonderful little creature. We have 40 to 60,000 thoughts per day. But because of much of our primitive wiring, most of those thoughts are pretty negative. And what happens is we think negative thoughts, and whatever you think over and over and over again, you become. It's like you're training yourself, or you're programming yourself, and it becomes your belief. So what I like to teach is can we become the master of our own mind rather than being the servant to our mind? So when we're a servant to our mind, we believe everything the mind dreams up. And when you're not really aware of what the mind is dreaming up, because I said we have 40 to 60,000 thoughts, they're not all conscious thoughts. A lot of them are subconscious thoughts. So we're functioning based off of those unconscious thinking, which we know is very negative. So we become the servant to that because we're unaware of it, and we tend to live off of that.
So Allison, is there a tool that we can learn to help us to master our minds?
Yes, and there's this wonderful activity that we have in many of our mindfulness curriculum that we bring to schools. One of them is called drifting clouds, and this is a wonderful way to, as a step of mastering your mind, to just befriend your mind, understand and acknowledge what is it that your mind is just feeding you all of the time. So what we do is we'll just sit quietly, just like we did before, with our hands on our heart and our hands on our belly. But really now the purpose is just to listen and observe what the mind is allowing to come in. And this really takes a bit of compassion. Because, when we sit and we close our eyes, and I see this all the time, I work with educators teaching them these things, and the minute you sit and you close your eyes, oh my God, there's a flood of things that come in, right? We start thinking of the worries, what I should have done, what I could have done.
That's the same for parents, community members, and business.
For everybody.
We all do this, so all of it applies to all of us, right?
Absolutely.
So we close our eyes and we do what?
So we close our eyes, and I like to give the visual of just imagine that you're in a park, laying on the grass, looking up at a beautiful blue sky, and you notice soft, fluffy clouds just slowly drifting by. And as you're just laying here relaxing, your mind will start feeding you some thoughts. So rather than attaching to the thoughts and continually thinking about them over and over, just notice the thought comes in. Whatever the thought might be, it's all okay. But then imagine that thought just floats up to a cloud, and just like the clouds drift by, just let the thought drift by. Even the thought, if the thought is, what am I making for dinner? What am I making for dinner? Okay, what am I making for dinner goes up in the cloud, and then let it go. It's just a thought. And then let the next one come in. So you're just really observing where your mind takes you. And you're doing without judgment and with some compassion to just be aware.
And that exercise, I'm sure, helps people feel an element of peace and calm as they do that. They get grounded and centered.
Yeah, I mean, it's a practice of really separating yourself from the thoughts. So on my website, I have this blog there of you are not your thoughts.
And what is your website? What is your website?
The website, it's sensationalkids.com.
Excellent. So you were saying on your website you have materials there.
Yes, there's a lot of free materials, resources for adults to use for themselves of practices and things that they could share with the children in their lives, whether it's a parent working with their own child, wanting to teach them some of these things, or an educator wanting to share it in the classroom.
That's wonderful. Now, Allison, what about the emotional, the feelings? What would you recommend for people to do regarding how they feel and how they can have a self-empowering tool to help them with their emotions?
Yeah, because here's the thing. Once we start thinking lots of things, those thoughts, they become our emotions, right? We start to embody them. And I love the quote by Fred Rogers. It's emotions are mentionable and manageable. So just like we're not our thoughts, they just happen, we really are not our emotions either. Emotions don't define us, they just inform us. And one of the greatest tools that we can give our children is to know that if they can name it, I'm angry, or I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated, or I'm happy. But if they can name it, they can tame it. And this is a function of what happens within our brain when we do just state what it is, when we become more aware of what that emotion actually is. And for adults, this is so important because so often we react to things in our lives, other people or situations, not based on what's happening in the moment, but based on an emotion that we had brewing from maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours ago, or a day ago. So it's so empowering for us to be able to understand how we're feeling in the moment so that we can understand if you're going to interact with somebody or respond to something, to understand that you might be reacting to it based on this emotion from something else rather than what's really happening in this interaction right now. So being emotionally aware is
taking the time to understand how you feel helps us to literally, again, reset within the body, correct?
Yeah.
Now, when people are identifying that, though, is there a particular exercise they can do to understand their emotions? Or is it just that awareness through their breath and understanding where they are in the moment?
Well, it's really a practice of asking yourself that question of, what am I feeling right now? And sometimes, especially with younger children, or I work a lot with children with different abilities, autism and ADHD, it's very hard for them to be able to say, well, I'm angry. But what they are able to do is say, like, I'm tight, or I'm hot. So rather than just naming the emotion, which might be difficult for some people, it might be difficult for some adults to do that as well because they're not so in touch with their emotions. There's so much of our society, it's like, don't feel that, push that away, get over it. But if they could at least connect with the sensation that they're feeling, to get to know how their body responds to certain things, it'll help calm that emotion. Because it's not about push it away, get over it. It's not about you can't be angry or you can't be sad. These are things that affect us, and we should be allowed to feel them, but without becoming overwhelmed by the feeling of them.
And then that helps us in our relationships and communications with others so that we healthfully respond versus react.
Exactly. And there's another sort of free giveaway that I have on my website. It's a journaling worksheet, and this is really for adults to use for themselves. It's called Creating Ease. And it's really about giving them the tools to be able to become more aware of what it is that you're thinking very often, what it is that you're feeling, and how you behave based on those things, and what you intend and what you choose to cultivate for yourself. So a lot of people don't understand that not only can we choose the thoughts that we have, we can choose the emotions that we have. But until you become aware of what your propensity is, of what you typically go to, it's hard to be empowered to know that you could choose this for yourself.
So what are the most important things that people can do to help them ignite utilizing these tools to make a difference in their lives?
Really, it's taking the time for yourself, knowing that you are an incredibly powerful being. And getting caught up in all of the doing doesn't serve you as a human being, because we are not human doings, we are human beings. So really getting to know what's in your mind, what's in your body, those feelings, what's in your heart, and knowing that you have the power to shift it all and create the life that you truly want. But it starts from within.
Allison, this was very helpful. I greatly appreciate it, and I thank you very much. So for people to get the downloadable information, they can go to
zenstationalkids.com.
Excellent.
It's most of the things that we talked about are available on the blog. So if they just click in the top tab to blog, they'll see all the information there. We have more videos for practices for them and downloadable scripts and activities too that they can share with others.
And they can do it together in families too, practicing it together so that the whole family feels more whole and peaceful and calm and has a better life because they've taken the time to attend to themselves and take care of each other and themselves.
That's what it's all about.
Thank you very much and have a wonderful day, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning for another Good Morning Wareham episode. We'll be back on Monday with plenty more. If you missed us this morning, this particular show will air this evening at 6 p.m. It will also go on our YouTube channel at Wareham Community Television on YouTube. With that, I bid you all a wonderful weekend. See you on Monday, Wareham. Bye.